right, welcome into the latest edition of the Second Half Draft Show. I'm your host, Juice, joined by Drew this evening, and we have a trio of teams to cover. As far as their 2025 draft prospects, of course, we're in the midst of our summer scouting, doing our preliminary scouting for the potential 2025 draft prospects. And this evening, we're going to start with the Arizona Wildcats, one of the new teams here in the Big 12. Very interesting tape, right? Really entertaining tape. If nothing else, it was entertaining. And having gone back and was watching some of the prospects, it just kind of gave me, that reaffirmed my appreciation for Jacob Cowan, who is now in the NFL. I believe he's a member of the San Francisco 49ers. Hopefully he doesn't get buried on that depth chart. But really fun tape to watch because they were so multiple from an offensive perspective. Right? The personnel groupings, the types of formations, they got under center a bit. It was enjoyable. It wasn't just breakneck speed, spread offense, with a bunch of bubbles built in. You understand what I'm saying? It was actually interesting to watch. Of course, Jed Fish moves on to Washington, and he takes quite a few players with him, quite a few players that I believe Arizona was expecting to come back and contribute, some in a big way in 2024, but those guys have moved on. So we'll focus on the players that remain, although I do want to make mention of my guy Coleman, the running back. I thought he was really impressive watching him on film, and when I went to go confirm it, I noticed that he's actually a Washington Husky, having left and followed Jed Fish. So Mr. C. Prasky, I'm sure, will be happy about that addition, but certainly some quality football players remain on this Arizona team. And we're going to start with your guy, Drew. Let's start with him. Let's start with the biggest name on this roster, the receiver here, McMillan.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, come on. Let's do it.
Come on, man. Bruh, Terrio McMillan? That's not even close.
It's not it, but I appreciate your effort. I'm not sure how to pronounce it either, bro. I was just trying.
I've heard it a couple of times.
Yeah,
and
I haven't heard it enough. I haven't heard it
Right.
enough to really get it. I haven't heard it enough. It's
We
not
gonna
as
call him
challenging. Fair enough. But it's not as challenging as it looks.
Yeah, yeah, you're correct.
It really isn't. Like I think you psych yourself out when you look at his first name and the spelling, but it's not. It's the pronunciation isn't that difficult. But we'll get it. We'll get it eventually. For now, T-Mac.
Mm-hmm. You remember T-Mac, bro?
I'm
aging myself a little bit.
I remember T-Mac, bro. I was a big T-Mac fan, man.
Yeah, man. Did you have the jersey, bro?
Nah. No jersey out here, man.
Not one of those guys, bro.
Nah.
Well,
my jersey days ended with Emmett. That was the last jersey I had, bro. So that was it, bro.
I got a Jameis Winston sitting in the closet. Never wore it. Brother got it for me. Never wore it.
Really?
Yeah, never wore that. Yeah, it's chilling.
Hey, man, I'm gonna auction that off, bro.
Hey, man.
Hey,
Jameis moves, man.
Listen, man. They say Jameis looking good in that Browns uniform, man. Looking clean out there, man.
He do look clean in it. He do look clean in it.
You know what I'm saying?
Until you see him drop back and doing all the goofy stuff he's doing. He's a character, man. He's a character. I like
Until he goes full Jameis. Until he goes full
Jameis. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, with T-Mac, man, this is receiver one. It's a guy who's 6'5", 210. If you go to Twitter or some shorts, I'm sure you'll see his ability in terms of that catch radius, man. It's long, it's long, large, pterodactyl like. I got here my nose, big, physical, and it's open when he's covered. Composes well on defenders when he's covered down the field. I think I got a clip on Twitter where I forget. I think it's the number 25 for Washington. He just had a rough day. I think his name is Elijah Jackson. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But he just had a rough day going against T-Mac. He can and will play above the rim, 50-50 ball winner, plus catch radius, contested catches, no problem with defenders draping all over him. Not afraid of contact to go over the middle. No fear of that. Really good at finding the holes in the zone, sitting down in those holes. Every receiver can see that. You know what I'm saying? So he can sit down in those holes. He does a lot of running horizontally across the field and being able to separate, or if not separate, you know what I'm saying? Again, if guys are draped on him on his back, he's able to make the catch, get his hands out there in all hands. Let me see. He does have an arm. I've seen him throw a touchdown or so with some trickery plays. So if you want to get cute, has the ability to turn a bag, throw a ball into a catch. I got here. Can play any of the wide receiver spots due to his size and ability to get his head around. And he plays like an undersized receiver. I think I said this before. So when you look at him, 6'5", 210, you see him making all these catches and down the field, tracking the ball and essentially mosking cats and all this. And then you see him, Arizona was peppering him with like screen and bubble pad. I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing? This dude's 6'5". Let's get him down the field. You know what I'm saying? And they just kept doing it a couple of times. The first couple of times I saw it, he would get tackled almost immediately. And then he broke a tackle. And then he ran through a tackle. And then he made a guy miss. And I'm like, oh. And it just over and over. So I was like, okay, I understand it. So this is a guy who, you know what I'm saying, not only can play the big role, but he can play the small role too, and he's fast and he can break tackles. So he's kind of all in how do you say it? All in one compassing. I think that's how you say it. And I can see why he's receiver one. Like I don't know, looking at all the receivers that I have here on my list, I don't know anyone that could jump in front of him, because he can play like a small guy and he can play like a big guy, and he's that guy, bro. As far as I'm concerned, man.
Big time love, big time love for T Mac. Fearfully Confident says, he gives him Calvin Johnson energy. And when you talk about, catch radius, certainly at 6'5", I can understand why you might feel that way. Johnson too was a player that, obviously a bigger player. I think Calvin Johnson had almost what, 25 pounds on T Mac.
Yeah.
So the height certainly is the same, body type a little bit different. But what I will say is that, and you alluded to it, you actually mentioned it, the small feet. And I'm using Drew's phrase here, small feet, and you articulated in terms of his ability to get in and out of breaks and play with the agility and change of direction of a smaller player, a player that isn't quite as long limbed. Because when you see a long limbed player, you tend to think it has to be build up speed, and you know what I'm saying. He's not as fluid or quick in and out of his breaks, and frankly, that's not the case here. So it's such a very unique blend of size and body control and agility. So I can understand why you might start to think along the lines of Calvin Johnson. I don't think he runs away from guys like Calvin Johnson could do. He just wasn't that same physical specimen, but certainly I can appreciate the ability to make plays at every level of the field, right? And then, of course, be a threat after the catch. He's not just a jump ball merchant, although I'll tell you, Drew, I'd like to see him attack the football at the highest point more often. He's certainly capable of it. You've seen it. It's not as if you haven't seen it. But there are a couple of instances where I felt like, no, go attack the football. Don't give the defensive back an opportunity to level the playing field, because there are no defensive backs his height, right? That has that type of catch radius. So don't give them an opportunity to get back into the play. Go get the ball at its highest point. So that's one area that I'd like to kind of see him, just take advantage of his God-given physical attributes a little bit more. But yeah, he's definitely in conversation for receiver one. There's no question about that. But big time talent, big time talent. As I mentioned, makes plays at every level of the field. I wonder because, you just didn't see a whole lot of challenging at the line of scrimmage necessarily. Yeah. So you always wonder about the release package and whether or not, he can consistently beat quality press coverage. From a footwork perspective, I think he has that. Want to see him use his hands again, use that frame to your advantage to really box guys out and again, create additional separation just with, again, your length, your wingspan, right, and your catch radius. So impressive player for sure. Definitely. Who else you got on this? Go ahead.
What you were saying in terms of using your hands. I do have a con, if you will, A negative is that he will let defenders get in on his chest. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't hinder him, but in the league, that's a different story, right?
Different
So
animal.
we need to we got to work on our taijutsu. We got to get that right. We got to get them hands right, so that we can defend what's coming in terms of the corner if they want to play press coverage, right? So we got to be able to do that. But every time I saw it, he really wasn't hindered by it. So, but again, if I'm a college coach and I have a long, stronger corner, I'm going to say let's just see what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? Let's just challenge him at the line. If he beats us a couple times, we'll back off. But if it's working, we're gonna stay with it, right? So I think that, like you said, that's one thing that I do want to see. I got to see him improve on, or at least just make an adjustment, right? I know it's not bothering you, but in the league, that's going to be an eyesore.
I think so. Fearfully confident. I think certainly it's something that can be improved upon.
Yep.
More physicality. I think a lot of it comes down to just being more physical because he's so nice with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You tend
Yeah.
not to necessarily play to the size that he possesses. So I'd like to see more dog from that perspective. Impose your will on the smaller defensive back. You know what I mean? Again,
Yep.
there aren't very many players that size that move that way, that has that kind of body control, tracks the football, adjusts back shoulder, the whole nine. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Drew, what he does in small, short area, in terms of creating yardage after the catch and separation. You see him on that pivot route around the goal line
The
to get
whip
in
route.
and out of his breaks on the whip route, and
Yep.
it's really impressive again at that size. But that's great. That's great because then you have the opportunity to get the best of both worlds under those circumstances, right? But
Yep.
the thing that I gotta have it from a 6'5" guy is I need you to play like a bully. I need
Yeah.
you to be a bully at the catch point. You understand what I'm saying? As well as the line of scrimmage, off the release. You mentioned guys getting their hands on him, chest, controlling him, disrupting him. That can't happen at your size. Can't let that happen. So, very, very talented prospect. Very talented prospect, as I mentioned. Certainly deserving of the conversation for receiver one. Who else do you have on this offense?
We got to talk about the quarterback, Noah Fitfa. I probably butchered that too because that's probably pronounced completely different. But I saw in somebody's rankings, I forget
I
where I
believe
saw
it's
it. He was
Fafita. I believe it's Fafita.
Fafita. Oh, there we go. All right,
Mhm,
Fafita. I like that. That's
mhm.
smooth, man. Fafita, he was like number 10 or number 11 in terms of, I think it might have, I don't remember what I saw. It was on Twitter, but I forget who had posted the infographic. Nice little infographic, but they had him like 10 or 11. I think it was 10 of all the quarterbacks. And I was like, oh, okay, they snuck him in there. But watching him, the one thing, and again, you had alluded to it, and I don't know if this is going to change just in terms of their offensive system. Um, you know, he turned his back to the defense, and you rarely see that in college football. And he was one of those, and he looked comfortable doing it. You know what I'm saying? It was usually a 2 or 3 man route. So, stuff that was simple, easy
Right.
reads.
Yep.
And he normally would make the right read, or if he didn't throw the football, he would kind of take off. He has the size that you want from the position in terms of the size and the athleticism that you want from the position at the quarterback position, as we talk about. And I think I don't know. It might start to be a prerequisite now that you have to be some type of athletic from the quarterback position these days. You can't be that drop back traditional quarterback. Although I'm still a fan of those guys, but he has that. I got here has to play with more calm feet though, man. There's a whole lot of moving with his feet right before he throws the football, and at times it looks like he's kind of rushing his throws. I need him to just kind of settle down because he'll miss some easy throws just by not settling his feet. Like
Mhm.
I said, does play in a system where he's going to turn his back to the defense, play action, looks comfortable doing it. Has the athleticism, like I said, you want from the position to be able to extend plays or turn something into nothing. A guy here can get off his reads a tick too early. He'll miss a couple of guys. If he'd have just waited maybe a half a second more, he'll have it. So I don't know if he's reading the defense properly or seeing it properly, and then kind of hold on to the ball a little too long at times. Said here, has to be able to process a little bit quicker consistently. I got here can also can lock on to guys before the snap. You know, I call that the Madden. What do I want to call it? Because I used to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm throwing it to B. Don't care what coverage you're running. I'm throwing it to B, bro. This is gonna work, bro. You know what I'm saying? Throwing it to triple coverage. I don't care, bro. If it don't work, we restart. You know what I'm saying? And we do it over again. You know what I'm saying? Hit the reset button. You feel me? You can't do that in college football, but yeah. I got here also. Appears to have the arm talent to throw the football down the field. Just got to get his feet right to get the accuracy going. And I'm looking to see, and he can throw from different arm angles as well. So some things to improve on. I don't know what it's going to look like this year though, because the offense, I'm assuming it's going to change. So that's going to be a big thing in terms of whatever offense is coming through the door, whatever offense coordinator's got for them. What does that look like? You know, I mean, they got a quarterback. They've got a receiver or two. So you know, they got a couple of things they can work with to keep this thing going.
Yeah, I know you were.
No, I think we lost Juice connection. See, let's wait on him. See if he comes back. But in terms of Arizona, a couple of more guys that we can. I think Juice is coming back. Is he coming back? There you go. Good.
They tried to knock me off, bro.
Oh man, I don't want you to talk, man.
Nah, man. What's wrong
They
with
say it's cat, bro. You about to say some cat, as the young folks would say, bro.
No, what I was gonna say is that I know you were excited to talk about Noah and his ability and what he brings to this offense, and he's very interesting, very intriguing prospect. Of course, he's gonna get knocked for his size, and I would agree with you. I think his struggles they intensify at times because of poor mechanics.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Speeding himself up, you know, making those predetermined reads and not coming off of them, an unwillingness to come off of some of those predetermined reads. I thought, again, I thought the offense itself was a very good offense. I thought the play calling was creative. It made it a point to get the ball to the playmakers. They involved, you know, a trio of running backs. They had a quality running game. I believe Coleman, as I mentioned, who's now in Washington, averaged almost 7 yards a pop. You know what I mean? You know, really physical runner, broke a lot of tackles as well. You had a pretty experienced offensive line last season. So as you mentioned, with the offense changing and some exits of some key players, including Michael Wiley, who was hurt a lot of last season, guy that we liked going into the 2023 season, it's going to look different. It's absolutely going to look different. One of the players that is returning, though, and fearfully confident mentioned him, is Jonah Savanea. I'm going to go with that. That probably is the incorrect pronunciation, but again,
we're going with it, bro.
very
That sounds
early.
great.
It's early in the process. It's early in the process. So we got almost a full calendar year to get that pronunciation right. What do you think of the right tackle, big right tackle here out of Arizona?
So I thought he had good feet, moves quick to get to his spot, run or pass. I thought I had more negatives than positives. I'm so sorry, but has trouble staying engaged at the point of attack, especially if he's not aggressive, if he's not the aggressor. You know what I'm saying? Hands just stop, man. They'll make that initial contact and then just stop. Not sure why, but he would stop. And a guy here can worry about getting to a spot rather than cutting off the space between him and the rusher. And so sometimes he would just get beat right across his face. You know what I'm saying? A quicker guy. If you go and watch that UCLA game, a couple of times he got beat by a drum, and it wasn't even by the Murphy boys or even what's his name, our guy, Latu. Yeah, it was a linebacker that's much smaller than all three of those guys. Would just cut across his face and beat him on the inside. And I don't like him. And they lined it up numerous times, a tight end next to him. And I know he's the right tackle, so that makes sense in terms of the strength of the formation. But and I've heard this before, and I forget who said. I think it might have been a Hall of Famer or one of the best offensive linemen in the league, or was at the time. But I heard some offensive line tackles don't like tight ends next to them. They'd rather not have the tight end next to them because it kind of changes it. First of all, it can widen the edge guy that they're going against, and they don't want that. I want you actually closer for the snap. And I think that was doing him a disservice, right? because now you're giving that edge guy more space to do what they want with him, and he's so concerned about getting back and then not really getting his punch out. It was really strange. So I could see a scenario where maybe he ends up playing guard. You may push him into guard again. I would like to check his arm length because that may be his home, maybe guard. We might be talking about this guy at guard. So, and if that's the case, that makes more sense to me. But and then I have here has to get his punch out quicker. He's slow to do that because I think he's just kind of it looks like maybe thinking through it. What's coming. What what I'm saying. Especially for a guy that's already beat him one or two times with a couple of different moves. Maybe he's just thinking through it. But yeah, so I wonder if they're going to kick him into guard. But if he stays at tackle, I mean, he's got some stuff he's going to have to work at.
I agree with you, and as you know, and some of our audience may recall, I thought his counterpart last year probably would be a better guard at the next level. So Green
Yep.
Bay obviously selects Jordan Morgan in the first round. I imagine they're going to give him an opportunity to play tackle. Um, I'm not certain, but that would be my expectation with Bakhtiari no longer there. But I think both those players actually profile better with a move to the inside.
Yep.
Your points are well taken. Your points are well taken. I like the power profile. I think he comes off the ball with a level of nastiness, very effective on the down blocks. I actually think he has the requisite athleticism to get out in space. It's about locating guys. It's about
Yep.
locating and latching, man. The latching just consistently an issue. Like he jolts defenders. When he gets his hands on you, like they give ground. They give ground. There's a big time power profile. And again, as Fearfully Confident mentioned, he's a guard. He
Yep.
looks and plays like a guard.
Guard.
But on those combination blocks where he's then expected to peel off and climb to the next level, again, I think he has the footwork to do it. He just does a
To do
poor
it.
job of locating those guys. And of
Yeah.
course, the other thing is, and this goes back to his inconsistency in terms of latching once he's engaged in a block, is finishing guys. The
Yeah.
guys with that kind of power profile, that player should be out of the play. He should not have an opportunity to then recover and make a play, retrace his steps, or ultimately get off, disengage. It shouldn't happen with that kind of power and physicality, violence that he possesses. So there's a lot to like. There's some raw ability there, raw strength there that's intriguing. I think that's why you may have seen him in some of these latter parts of the first round and these way too early mock drafts, but the
Mhm.
technical polish and expertise isn't quite there, especially at the tackle position. So we'll see. We'll see if
Right.
he takes a step. But as of now, I think he probably would be a better guard. I think his running mate though, Leaf Magnuson, the right guard, is a guard. Obviously, I thought he played pretty well as well. I thought at times those two looked really good in tandem. So I'm going to keep my eye on Magnuson because, again, he seemed to have a certain level of consistency. He's a redshirt junior. There was a certain level of consistency in terms of his play that I came away feeling like, okay, I was paying attention to the tackle, but the guard, he looked pretty good, right? There was some mixed peaks and valleys with respect to Jonah's play, but I thought his running mate may have been just a little bit more steady. Of course, he's playing the guard position where Jonah probably should play. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Anybody else on this offense, this Wildcats offense, you want to discuss?
There was one other. Let me see if I put him in here. Just the name because I didn't write notes on him. Hold on, let me look at the roster real quick. I just want to make sure I'm correct.
Sure, sure. I mentioned it
Um,
earlier. That Arizona had their lead back, Jonah Coleman, last year. He averaged just under 7 yards a carry. I came away very impressed. Doesn't have the home run speed or anything like that, but just the decisiveness in his rushing attack, the vision, the contact balance, good initial bursts, good quality initial bursts. Physical, man,
all
broke a lot of tackles, a lot of yardage after contact. He actually transfers out. So Michael Wiley's gone. DJ Williams apparently is no longer there, who's also in that mix. Jonah Coleman's not there. So your top three rushers apparently aren't on this roster anymore. So we talk about how much this Arizona offense, how much change we're anticipating from a coaching perspective, from a personnel perspective. There's a lot of change here as well. So they're going to lean heavily on Noah and T-Mac, as you mentioned, in terms of being able to move the football, because of course, with T-Mac and of course he had the bigger plays, of course. 90 grabs this season ago. Jacob Cowing had 90 grabs. He had 90 grabs. And Tanner, the tight end, is in the league as well. You know what I'm saying? He was their third leading receiver. So big changes here on this Arizona Wildcats football team. Who's this additional name you're looking
The additional
for?
name I have here is Montana Lemonis Craig. I think I don't know if I said the Lemonis right. But he was a guy who yeah, when I kept what is it?
Lemonius.
Oh, Lemonius. There we go. My bad. Damn, it was terrible. Montana Lemonius Craig. 2 last names, the law firm. When I was watching T-Mac, he kept popping up. I didn't write any notes on him. I just keep note of him. I didn't realize he was still on the team. I thought he actually was leaving for the league, so I didn't bother to write notes. Otherwise, I'd have wrote some notes on him. But he was a guy who kept popping up as well. So
He's
number
gonna
5,
have to, yeah, he's a slot. He's gonna have to step up. He's gonna have to step up in the absence of Tanner McLaughlin. I think it's McLaughlin, right? Right. Let me double check. McLaughlin. Yep. And Jacob Cowing, in addition to Michael Wiley, Jonah Coleman. That's another 50 grabs out of the backfield between those two. Like there's a lot of vacated targets here. A lot of vacated targets. So I'm expecting T-Mac to put up huge numbers. Huge numbers.
Yeah.
But certainly, and we're talking 13 TD grabs from Jacob Cowing. That's no longer on this roster as well. It's a lot of production, a lot of opportunity here as well in Arizona. So we'll see how they manage. What about the defensive side of the ball? Any standouts here in your mind?
Yeah.
I know you got to talk about Tacario Davis. You got to talk about Tacario Davis.
Number 5 corner right now. Might make some adjustments. We'll see.
Okay.
But we got another big guy, man. Him and Tacario and T-Mac must be having battles in practice, because you got 6'5" going against 6'4", right? So Tacario 6'4", 195. That's pretty big for a corner. I got big, long, physical, and strong. Pause. Willing to mix it up on both run and pass coverage. Can and will stymie, slow down, and redirect the receiver at the line of scrimmage, which you love, what I'm saying, as a cornerbacks coach, as a defensive coordinator. Will and has dropped back to play some safety, some lone safety, what I'm saying? So that speaks of the range and his understanding of what he's responsible for when things, running guys in motion and offense is doing the cute stuff, trying to figure out what the defense is in. I have here Will line guys up and realign guys. So he's coming hats to the party, man. You know what I'm saying? So, when you talk about big guys, bigger guys at position on we talked about T-Mac being a bigger guy, being more physical, and we turn around, we talk about a defensive guy being big and being physical. Like you want to see that, you know what I'm saying? You don't always get it, but I think you're getting that from Tacario Davis. A guy his size has the closing ability that he shouldn't have. 6'4", 195, and he can close like a guy that's 6 foot, you know what I'm saying, 185, 180, you know what I'm saying, coming in and closing down. Appears to be good in run support, especially in short yardage and at goal line. The cons that I have here is he has the speed and can cover a lot of ground, but it can take him a tick, too slow to get up to speed in terms of heading downfield. So I just wonder about that. Again, 6'4", 195 is a bigger corner. I'm not going to kill him for it, or I'm not going to unalive him for it. He plays to his size, so I'm going to live with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he does play to his size. I agree with some of your evaluation. I'm going to disagree with portions of it. So from my perspective, I don't think I saw enough physicality at the line of scrimmage from him in terms of his pass coverage. Yeah, he does a really good job in run support. I agree with you. He'll trigger downhill. He'll fight through blocks as guys try to do bubbles and quick screens and stuff and make a play. So I can really appreciate that about him. I thought there was a lot of press alignment based on the film that I saw. I mean, maybe it could come down to just the games that I watched. A lot of press alignment, but it was always bail technique. It was always side saddle bail technique. And I'm thinking to myself, you're 6'4", bro. Get your hands on the damn receiver. You know what I'm saying? Control them at the line of scrimmage. Disrupt that timing, and just didn't see it. You saw a lot of mirror and match press bail out of a press alignment. And again, there was a an abundance of press alignment. So I'm thinking at some point you're going to go up there and challenge, and I just did not see it. It was very rare and sparse, which obviously doesn't mean he can't do it. You would just like to see it, right? You would just like to see it, and I think he could be that much better if he works on that and really fine tunes that before he goes to the next level. It's going to help because from a cover three perspective, and I do think he is scheme dependent. I don't see him as a guy that is going to be, at least to this point, and maybe things change here in the 2024 season, but to this point, I think he needs to be in a cover three. I think he needs to be in quarters coverage, where he can keep his eyes on the quarterback. He can get into the deep third. He can use that length, a la what the Seattle Seahawks did, during the Legion of Boom days and the Sherman and Browner days when they had the longer corners. Of course, they still kind of have some of that at play, but I think that's what he would be best suited for from a schematic perspective. I think he carries receivers really well downfield. You mentioned that there's a little bit of a buildup. There is, and it's not to be. It should be expected. It really should be expected because he's a longer limbed player. But I think he carries him pretty well. The issue that he has is coming out of those breaks, right? I thought he did a really good job carrying guys on vertical routes, but if they snap that thing off on a comeback or a curl, it's a completion, bro. It's a completion. If the ball's out on time, it's a completion because whether he's not paying attention to the receiver's hips, the body language that keys him to say, okay, they're breaking off the stem here. I need to get myself in position to make a play, or just the transition that it's just too much length that has to kind of come to a stop and redirect and go in the opposite direction. I think he struggles with that. So that's something that he needs to work on. That's why I think he would just be better in the deep third. I think the ball skills are pretty good, decent. There are at times where he gets a little grabby. He panics. He's in position, right? Even when he's out of phase, because of his length, he can still make a play on the football, but he panics and he doesn't get his head around. Of course, when he does get his head around, you're not going to complete it. He's too long. He's too long. When he gets his head around, he's gonna get his hands on the football. You know what I'm saying? It's very difficult to play through him or to climb the ladder over him because of his size. So very unique player, not unlike T-Mac on the offensive side of the ball, because you generally don't see corners 6'3", 6'4". You generally don't get that. And the ability to run, especially from a vertical perspective, I think he's going to be very enticing in terms of teams that have a proliferation of cover three and quarters coverage. That being said, I don't see him as a first round prospect at this juncture, right? To me, he's more of a day two guy because of the things that I've mentioned previously. I think there are some limitations there. Now, he takes this step this season, becomes a bit more complete. I've seen them play him in the slot at times. You understand what I'm saying? And I can appreciate that he's taking on the challenge. It's just not his home. It's just not his home, right? He would be better suited on the boundary. You know what I'm saying? And I think if you have certain types of limitations, that may drive you down the board a little bit. But very, very intriguing prospect for sure. Who else you got on this defense?
I got my guy who I've been talking about for a little bit for a little bit now, and he can't stay healthy. Is Justin Flo. Yeah, linebacker Justin Flo. He's actually gonna play the middle linebacker. He's playing outside for Oregon, but he's gonna play the middle linebacker for them. 5-star, new school. He's the new school linebacker. That sideline to sideline linebacker. But he plays so fast sometimes he's got to slow down. He's got to slow down. He's got to see it. You can get him on the double moves and get him on the some trick plays because he's just so quick and fast that he just wants to make a play. And then part of that may be because he hasn't played a whole lot because of injury, right? But I got here in my notes capitalized, stay healthy. Like we don't know exactly. We know you were a 5-star, but we don't know what it looks like for a full season because we need you to stay healthy and hopefully, knock on wood for him, cross the fingers that he does stays healthy. And we can actually see who Justin Flo is and we can see that 5-star that comes out of him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. We just struggle to stay on the field, right? You see some flashes of some explosiveness, but there's nothing to really hang your hat on in terms of consistency. He's going to get his opportunity this year, though. Definitely going to get his opportunity here. Fearfully confident. Ephesians Pricelock. He's one of those players that transferred to Washington. So he's no longer in Arizona. He was number 7. So you got to see him opposite Takario, and he made some plays, got beat some. It's the way it goes at cornerback position. So talented player, younger player, but he's transferred to Washington. So with them losing Jabbar Muhammad and they actually, I'm telling you, the Huskies got a pretty good haul from Arizona. There's some good football players in Arizona. Arizona was a top 12, 13 team at the end of the season. They were going to make some noise. They were going to make some noise in the Big 12, and they got a pretty tough go of it now, considering some of the players that ultimately left. So we'll see how it plays out. Dana, appreciate you. Dana's bringing in the high school detail out of Arizona there. You understand what I'm saying? To give you a little bit more context as it relates to some of these players here for the Wildcats. What do you think about this? Is Takario a TJ Tampa type in your mind?
I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I'm gonna give Takario a little bit more love than a TJ Tampa.
Yeah,
just a little bit more. Plus, he got.
I think he's more fluid than Tampa is. I think he's, I think there may be some similarities in terms of tackling, although Tampa's a better tackler. The run support. I think Tampa might have the edge from in the shorter passing game, the quick passing game. Right. But further downfield, I'm going to give the edge to Takario for sure. Intermediate, deep, he certainly gets the edge in that department. I actually have a couple players here. You got another guy?
I got one last one. I just want to give him some props because he was a walk on. Is Traden Stukes, 6'2", 195. He plays the star position. Don't know if that's going to change, but right now on the depth chart, he's playing the star position. And he's just improved every year that he's played. He's been productive every year. So if you go and you look at his numbers, he's climbing that ladder. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that you like to see, especially from a guy that's a walk-on, man. So he's gonna have a little bit more juice this year. But that's just a guy just to keep an eye on him. And I think his number's number 2. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Stukes is number 2.
Yeah. Eye on him.
Yeah, I kept my eye on him because he plays the star position. We've talked about it previously, how significant, the nickel is, the star is in these defenses, whether it be the collegiate level or the NFL level, and just the amount of responsibility that particular position has. And you're almost compelled to watch that player, even though he may not necessarily be a household name or anything. As you're studying defensive prospects, take a look at the star. See what he's doing, because that player is the linchpin to a lot of defenses in terms of their run support as well as defending the pass. So I'm with you there on Stukes. I like Dalton Johnson, the strong safety. Whether he was down in the box in support or playing in the deeper parts of the field. I thought he played with instincts. He was a good tackler, open field tackler. Always around the football. Can always appreciate that. Always around the football. I believe he was either first or second on the team in tackles last season. And it's either him or another guy I'm going to mention here, Jacob Manu, who is a really physical linebacker. Really physical. I like the way he stacks and shed, and he'll take on, offensive guards and whatnot. Now, playing in space isn't necessarily his calling card. I think he needs to get in a little bit better shape, perhaps. Maybe drop a little bit of weight in order to be a bit more effective against the pass. But I like the physicality. He's a bit of a throwback from that perspective. He plays with, he's the type of guy to me that should be wearing a neck roll. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I like the collisions that Jacob Manu has. So and he's still a young player. He was a sophomore last year. I believe he's a junior now, if I'm not mistaken. So still developing. But I'm gonna keep an eye on him as well. A couple players there on the Arizona defense that our listeners, our watchers, our patrons should also keep in mind. All right, Drew. I think that's everybody for me for this Arizona Wildcats team at this juncture. Let's transition. Who's up next?
Let's go to the SEC, bro. I'm good with the SEC.
All right. The Missouri Tigers. Mizzou. Okay. All right. What side of the ball you want to start on?
Let's go offense, man. I don't got too many defenders. Just looking at that roster,
a lot of change. It was a lot of change to the roster. A lot of change. Yeah.
And you know what it is on that defensive side? It's a lot of guys who didn't get a lot of run, but there's potential there. So it's like, well, you're going to play now because you were playing behind other guys, so you were limited. So it's and again, that's a good defensive scheme. You just got to see guys shine, get it together. So, you know, it may be a slow start for that defense, but I think they're going to, you know, about midseason, they might be in midseason form and might be able to
round into shape a bit.
Hopefully they get it together before, you know, the SEC schedule starts and gets a little tough. So, but we can start with the offense, and let me just flop this real quick just so I don't make sure I don't miss anybody. But we're gonna start with the number one player on the team, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know, that might be receiver 1 for some. He's got to be at least receiver 3 at worst case scenario for others. But he's my receiver 2. And we're talking about Luther Burden III. Why can't I find Mizzou on here? What's happening? Missouri? Where are you at, Missouri? Can't find them, bro. Oh, they're right there. Come on, man. That's terrible. All right. For Luther Burden III. I think I read this before, but I'm gonna read it again. We talk about receivers every year that come out that are Deebo Samuel like, and here we are at it again. I think he has a little bit more smoothness to his game, a little bit more elusiveness to his game, but he's listed at 5'10", 215. And it wouldn't surprise me if he weighed a little bit more than that, because he is very hard to tackle. He can make you miss, but he can run through you, run by you. Arm tackles aren't going to get the job done. Surprisingly, he's 5'11", but he attacks the football in the air. It's not going to be an easy thing for the defender, even though he's 5'11". Well, he's listed at 5'11". Let's assume that's what he is. Can win at all levels of the field, outside, inside, short, deep, middle, intermediate, don't matter. Whatever you need him to do. Appears to track the ball very well. I think he's one of the best receivers at doing that, although his running mate might give him a run for his money a little bit here, and we'll talk about him in a second. Number one attribute I have is his ability to always make the first guy miss. That's a beautiful thing. We always talk about that in terms of the running back position, and here he is doing it at the receiver position. Open space is his friend, while he makes it the defender's enemy. Has some short area quickness, strong, slippery, and tough. His weaknesses might just be he's just not tall enough. And then the other thing that I discovered watching Brady Cook, the quarterback, is that a lot of the routes that they run are either out. I mean, the hatches are tight anyways, but everything's outside the hatches and away from the hatches. We're talking about, corner routes. We're talking about fades down the field, goes down the field, down the sideline, or if it's across the middle, or if it's down the middle, down the seam, it's just straight down the seam. We're not talking about running any in routes, anything like that. So, I think in terms of the route tree, and I think all the receivers on the roster can run routes. I just think that what they're asking them to do, again, I just need to know, can you do it? And I don't know that we'll figure that out. But my assumption is that he can. He's too talented, too good, too smooth of a route runner for that not to be the case.
I think that's the only question mark with Burden, right? Is how truly proficient are you of a route runner? And it's not because he's not capable. It's simply because of what the offense entails, what they're asking him to do. He's impressive, bro. I got him as receiver 1 at the moment. He's impressive because, as you mentioned, he makes plays at every level of the field. They've lined him up in the backfield, ran a Texas route with him. They'll hand it to him. Short, intermediate, deep, slot fade. Missouri had a tendency to do these stack releases, play him in the slot. So he took advantage of, linebackers trying to carry him in cover 2. It's a mismatch. You're not going to win that one, right? Isolate him against the safety. It's a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a problem. He's a problem. But the question is, big boy matchup on the boundary consistently, are you going to be able to win with precise route running, right? That's really the question mark. But I'm willing to bet on that talent. I think that smooth acceleration that he possesses, the way he gets to his top speed so quickly, he eats up coverage, man. And you know, teams will play a little, you know, off coverage, 6-7 yards off. He eats that up. He's on the defensive back's heels almost immediately from the snap. You know what I mean? And then I think perhaps my favorite aspect of his game, because of course a lot of his yards came after the catch, and that isn't to say that he can't track the football, beat guys deep. You know what I'm saying? Take the top off the defense. He can absolutely do that as well. But it's his ability to find the soft spot in the zone, right? Throttle it down, present his numbers, make a play. There's a willingness to go over the middle. There's a toughness there. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't know that everybody who's heard the name, right, maybe familiar with the name, knows exactly what type of playing style this guy possesses. Because if you just check out the highlights, you know what I'm saying? He's in the open field. He's making plays deep, but there's a physicality to him, and he's dense. You mentioned it. He's up to about 215 now. Played just under maybe 210 last year. He's put together. He's put together. And we're talking a true junior, if I'm not mistaken. So, he's definitely in the conversation. And for me, he's leading the clubhouse right now in terms of receiver one, because he has an NFL body. He's not just one of those, you know, little guys that are darting around and just playing with a ton of speed. No, he's got a legitimate NFL body. And while he's not 6'3", I'll take the 5'11", 6 foot. Playing with that ability, be able to climb the ladder. I'm sure he's going to jump out the gym. He's going to test well. So I'm not going to make the mistake I made a couple years ago, right? And I'm not suggesting that Luther Burden is Jamar Chase, but one of the things about Chase was that he wasn't the most polished of route runners. He wasn't. Still isn't. But that play strength that he plays with, he's a good enough route runner. You understand what I'm saying? So while it'd be nice to see more of it, I'm not going to come off of it because he's not being asked to do it necessarily. You understand what I'm saying? And I think with his body control, the amount of back shoulder throws, especially to the next receiver we're going to talk about, I think he'll be just fine. It's an area that obviously you can improve as well. Speaking of his running mate here, you're going to go with Weiss? You want to talk about Weiss?
Yeah, Theo Weiss Jr. But
Theo Weiss. Yes, sir.
6'2", 192 listed. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's bigger than that, because he plays pretty big. Him and Burden are similar in terms of when the ball's in the air to go up and get it. Except that Weiss is 6'2". That's Dragon Ball, isn't it? Weiss. You know what I'm saying? Dragon Ball Super. My bad.
Super.
But
it's for the
young recruit, actually from Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? And he suffered an injury.
That's
let me read it.
That's right. He was from Oklahoma. I remember.
You remember him?
This was a transfer.
I didn't remember until I pulled up a game and I saw him against Florida. And I said, "Oh, I remember him." So I just want to read this because, there's a lot of people who love to talk about the 5-star, the 4-star. He's coming from this high school. He's going to go to that college, and I'm all about the process. And when you get there, and then when you settle in, then I'm like, okay, let me see what he looks like versus all the hoopla beforehand. Because again, I talk about you were a big fish in a small pond, and now you're a small fish in a big pond, right? Or maybe you are a big fish in a big pond, but I don't know that until you settle into the college that you're at, right? And then now we got the transfer portal where you can just vacate the premises at a moment's notice, right? Multiple times a year, right? So just reading this article from all Sooners, want to give them boys their love. Weiss is an Oklahoma senior who came to Norman as a 5-star prospect out of Allen, Texas, as a member of the Lincoln Riley's much-hyped 2019 recruiting class that included 5-star quarterback Spencer Rattler, 5-star wide receiver Jaden Hazelwood, 5-star wide receiver Trajan Bridges, and 4-star tight end Austin Stogner. Do you know any of the players outside of Spencer Rattler? Do you remember any of those guys? Because all of them have been injured outside of Spencer Rattler. And I think Stogner. I think that's how you say it. Stogner is headed back to Oklahoma. I think he transferred out and then he's headed back. So, for the people who, want to talk about and Weiss is a part of that injury, that class of just being injured. People want to continue to talk about these 4 or 5 stars. Let's let those guys settle in, man. Let them settle in. Let's figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Let them settle in. Let them, is things going well? Are things not going well? You know what I'm saying? Has he actually garnered to be a starter? You know what I'm saying? Before we give them that bill of, okay, he's the guy. Because I see it a lot, man. I just see it. And it's kind of strange. You got an 18-year-old kid headed into college. It's okay, a 17-year-old kid headed into college, and we talking to them as if they're Jesus Christ for this college, bro. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox. And in terms of Weiss, let me get my notes here. Where'd he go?
Well, while you're pulling up your notes, as it relates to the star conversation, I think the best way the whole star ranking is framed, because it's not an exact science, obviously, not unlike the draft, right? There's no way for you to be exact with this, right? Just as many 5 stars that go on to be quality NFLers, there's exponentially more who don't bust a grape, right? Who never get out of first gear at the collegiate level, let alone the NFL level. So it's not an exact science, but what I've come to understand is that the purpose of the star rating is, or at least the methodology behind it, generally is referring to body type. Do you have the body type and the production that would suggest you play at major college football program, NFL level, right? So you're not going to see a 6'3", 260-pound offensive tackle as a 5-star. It's not going to happen, right? Because that kid needs to continue to develop. He needs to get bigger. Now, he may end up being 6'6", 330 when it's all said and done, right? But he's probably a 3-star, right? He may have all of the technical refinement, be excellent in pass pro, but he's not going to get that billing because his body does not necessarily suggest blue-collar college football program, NFL starter, right? Based on the body type. You understand what I'm saying? Now, you get a guy who was dominant and he's 6'6", 350, there's your 5-star. There's your 5-star. So I think when I started to understand that and frame things with that in mind, I started to get a better appreciation for it. Because, of course, there's guys who are no stars that go on to be NFL players and making plays every Sunday. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, you don't want to get caught up in that, because there's an element to being able to develop players as well, right? A lot of these 5-stars don't get developed, right? If you line up a bunch of 3 and 4 stars that are getting great coaching and continuously developing, they're going to probably beat a collection of 5-stars who don't get that requisite coaching. So, but again, if you look at it through the prism of body type and do they have the frame, the weight, the height, the measurables that suggests upper echelon college football program, being able to play early on, not necessarily needing to redshirt, that type of thing comes into play.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I got here while Theo Weiss Jr., he doesn't quite have the quick twitch that Burden has. Not that many do. He has the downfield speed and ball tracking ability, along with his ability to contort his body to go up and get the football. And this is you're going to see this consistently over and over and over. You can't miss it. Whether you're watching some highlights or you're watching the tape, it's going to be there. You're not going to miss it. So he's also easy. He's not easy to take down. We talked about the 6'2", 195, 192, whatever his frame is. Wouldn't be. I saw on one side they say he's 6'3", 200. Wouldn't surprise me the way he plays, right? And I believe he has the ability to play the X because he has that requisite size that you want, and his ability to play along the boundary. And again, he kind of falls into that same, hey, can he run all the routes? I'm not gonna say he can't. My assumption is that he can do it because he's nice, bro. He's nice. And they have another receiver.
He's nice, bro. Theo Weiss is nice, bro. That's what comes to mind, bro. He's nice, bro. Yeah. He's not as dynamic as Burden, right? But he's nice, bro. I jotted down some notes. The first thing I wrote down is polished. He's polished, bro. Back shoulder merchant, right? You mentioned his ability to contort his body and put himself in position to make the play. You see the late hands. One of the things that I came away really impressed by was there were a couple of reps where he stemmed to the inside hit and ran it out and created a ton of separation. That's textbook. That's textbook, bro. You threaten the defensive back's inside hip, get him to commit, and then you work your way back to the out. So, that's the reason why I mentioned him being polished and the fact that he's nice. He's smooth with it. Not real demonstrative, not super explosive, but very, very effective, polished. And I don't want to. When you say that, it's because everything is under control. It doesn't mean that he's a quality athlete. It doesn't mean that he's devoid of explosiveness. It's just that he's always under control. You understand what I'm saying? The route tempo is quality. I saw one bad concentration drop. I know he wanted that one back, but he's going to play on Sundays. The Oasis is going to play on Sundays. He's a really good football player. Really good football player. I like Mookie Cooper too. That's my guy out there. Mookie making plays, but Weiss is nice, bro. Weiss, you know what Weiss kind of reminds me of, bro? Just a little bit. Maybe not the exact same player, but just you got a guy, right? You got the alpha in Burden, right? But then you got this nice guy he's like Jalen Polk, bro. It's like Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk for me, bro. You know what I'm saying? Again, maybe not to that degree, right? Top of the second round, maybe not. But just in terms of, he does everything well. He can play the X. He'd be fine at Z. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like the Oasis a lot as well. Really do. No Cody Schrader. He almost had 300 carries, bro.
That's crazy, bro. That's surprising and crazy.
That's almost unheard of these days at any level. I shouldn't say any level. College and the NFL. My high school coach is you're gonna get them totes, bro. But it's almost unheard of to have that type of workload. So big vacancy there in the backfield. I'm not sure who the guy is that's going to be. I think so. I'm just not terribly familiar with them. Marcus Carroll, Nate Noel. Those are a couple of transfers that are in there. And then they get real young after that. A pair of seniors, and then they get really young. Brady Cook, Drew, quarterback. What were your thoughts on him?
What I got for Brady Cook, I got here, even though he is 6'2" and only 205, he has solid build and not easy to take down once he gets going. If you can catch him before he gets going, you're probably going to bring him to the ground. But once he gets going, he's a little hard. But, solid frame there. Plays in the quarterback-friendly scheme, throws either a bubble throws are either bubble passes, corner routes that are outside the hashes. I got fades up the sideline or go routes down the
fade stop. Back shoulder fade stop.
There's nothing really over the middle horizontal. This is not a horizontal offense whatsoever. So I just wonder what that would look like in the league. And again, that's not his fault, but how do you read that out when you're sitting back and you're processing? You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that throw looks like for him, right? So that's one thing. I don't know that we'll ever get that answered, but just write that down. That's all I'm saying. I got here, and he can throw. What I got here, and he can throw all. What I got here, man. I'm just typing here. Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah. So just wondering what he looks like in a more pro style offense. And I know we talk about it probably every week in terms of anytime we talk about a quarterback. The NFL is kind of heading more towards that college scheme, and having the hashes where they are in college football is a benefit, right? For those offenses that want to kind of play this speed ball or this creating that separation with the receivers, and it's an offense advantage it's unfortunate, but it kind of makes it harder to kind of understand how good this quarterback can be in terms of processing, and then it's essentially just processing. But since it has wide receivers that aid him in being a solid quarterback. I know that I got here. I know they lost 2 games last year. Okay, and I always say, if you're going to be one of these top quarterbacks that we're talking about that we want to draft at the top of the board, right? One of the biggest things that I want from that quarterback is do you raise the level of play of the players around you? I don't know that he does that.
Right.
Okay. The one thing I think he does very, very well is that he'll take off, and that he can turn a play, he can extend a play, bad play into a good play by just taking off and getting yardage that's there. So if everybody wants to turn their back, play man coverage, good luck, okay? Because you're going to be chasing him. But in terms of when you go to play the big boys, right? So he played Georgia and he played LSU. Not that LSU defense was big boy, but you had to keep scoring. Like that's what it was. We had to keep
scoring. It was a track meet. It was a track meet.
That's exactly what it was. It was a track meet. And in those games, in the Georgia game, okay, which wasn't a track meet, we need you to play the quarterback position, and we got to get this dub. He threw for under 50%. Okay, and the 2 games,
couple of costly INTs.
Okay,
costly INTs in that game as well. Yeah.
He threw 2 picks in the Georgia game, and he threw 2 picks in the LSU game. Okay, so one game is where you gotta keep up, and then the other game is you can't turn the football over, and you got to be efficient, and we gotta score when we get the opportunity. And he kind of cracked the bed in both those situations. So again, I asked, you have the weapons, and they brought in some transfers in terms of the offensive line. So my question is can he be that guy? And I don't know that. I don't think so. And I think he's a 5th-year senior, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I have him up here. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I believe he's a 5th-year senior.
So I don't know, man. Right now, he's, I don't know where I even have him ranked in terms of my quarterbacks, but he's got a lot to show me in terms of getting over that hill of and I'm not saying he had to beat LSU or he had to beat Georgia, but you couldn't have been the reason why they lost the game, if that makes sense.
I think your assessment of Brady Cook is spot on. I think, and those are the 2 games that I would point to in terms of understanding, what's it going to take for winning football here, right? You needed at times in that Georgia game to be more of a game manager, not necessarily a playmaker, right? There were certain times where it's about field position, it's about ball control. You know what I'm saying? To come away with a win against such a talented opponent. You understand what I'm saying? The LSU game, the certain throws getting away from you. One of the things that I think he could really benefit from is understanding where to go with the football when it's not there downfield, right? Because he's a good athlete, he has a tendency to try to extend plays, escape, so on and so forth. Sometimes you just take profit, check it down, take profit. You got a guy like Cody Schrader out there who's excellent out of the backfield in terms of the passing game. Get the ball to your check down and move on. Live to fight another day. So balancing when to be aggressive, when to be a playmaker versus when to just take a profit, when to, hey, you know what? Let's punt. Let's play a little, field position. You know what I mean? That's something that you want to see, especially from a 5th-year senior. You want to see your experienced quarterback be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? And do that against the stiffest of competition for sure. So I'm with you there. What up, DP? What's happening? Got DP in the building. Want to thank Fearfully Confident Dana chiming in here in the comments, and I want to thank everybody else for joining us during summer scouting. Hadley, Drew, you mentioned that Missouri had some transfers along that offensive line. One I wanted to point out was Marcus Bryant from SMU. Has graded out very well over the last few seasons in terms of his pass protection. SMU was a high octane, high tempo offense. I expect Missouri to put the ball up in the air a ton. They could be pushing close to 400 pass attempts. That Brady Cook, that is, could be pushing close to 400 pass attempts this season. So Bryant, obviously, he fits the mold well there. They're trying to replace Foster, who is now in the NFL. But his run blocking is a bit of a concern. So my question is, with respect to this offense, how effective can they be if they go pass happy, and if they're not planning on going past happy, are they going to be able to be balanced in terms of their rushing attack and running game? I'm not sure. That remains to.
I think we lost Juice. To speak on the offensive line, if they're going to go pass happy, I got a guy here that I think it's their right tackle, if I'm not mistaken. I want to make sure I get that right. Yes, their right tackle. And I just lost it. Give me a second. Here is Armand Membe. I don't know. I butcher. Y'all know how to do names. My apologies. 6'3", 314. I got good and quick feet in the pass game. Usually the first out of his stance. Not 100% sure on his power and grip strength due to how they play in the run game. There's a lot of pulling. There's a lot of reach blocks. There's a lot of doubles. So there's never guys lined up straight, guys were lined up right over him. He wasn't taking those guys on. So right in front of him. So I don't know what that looks like. That's just the nature of the scheme. Maybe I watched the wrong game, didn't watch enough games. I'm not sure. So, but that's something that I'm not sure about. And then in the past game, he'll give up his chest, man. I got here. He's got to get his punch out in time. Otherwise, he's a fridge. He's a fridge on a dolly, man. He's just getting moved back, pushed back into the quarterback. At times he was even able to kind of drop the anchor and kind of stop it, but that was kind of to inferior guys. So, Drew said he got to restart. So we'll hold in there. But in terms of that pass game, they may have some work to do with him to get those things right. But like you said, they may be throwing the football a lot, and I think a lot of their run is going to come from Brady Cook because he will take off. And he was a big part of their run game. I know your boy Schrader last year had over 300 carries, as Juice alluded to, but I think Brady Cook might have more carries this year. But we'll see in terms of those running backs. Again, had those transfers that came in, and Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel, and Marcus Carroll being from Georgia State. I think that's an HBCU. Shout out HBCU. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. And then App State and Nate Noel, excuse me. So, but yeah, we'll see in terms of that run game. That'll be interesting to see if they hand it off to those guys more, or if it's I'm probably gonna be passing game, man, because you're talking again about Theo Weiss, you're talking about Mookie Cooper, and then you're talking about Luther Burden. You know what I'm saying? So, and in some cases, a receiver one for some folks. So, but what do we got next? We were gonna go defense, and we had talked about it earlier in terms of the defense. It's a lot of transfers that came through the door for these guys. And it's let me see here. No. From Mizzou, not a lot of transfers. Well, they do got a lot of transfers. I take that back. Just looking at this list, it's a lot. But a couple of guys that I wanted to talk about is Carnell Dalen, Dalen Carnell. Say it backwards. And again, we talked about it previously with Arizona, but here it is, the star position. And Juice had said it earlier. This seems to be the big position in college football, right? The nickel star, whatever you want to call it, that guy that's coming into the box, that's taken on, kind of doing some of the dirty work, playing that hybrid position, whether it's, kind of playing a little bit of corner, a little safety, a little linebacker. It's kind of all in one in terms of that position. And he's been productive. Looking at his numbers here, he had 51 tackles last year, 30 solo, 21 assisted. He had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. And then the year before, he had 3 interceptions. He had less production in terms of his tackles, but you kind of see the uptick. And he also had 7 pass deflections this past year and 5 the previous year before. So this dude's active. He knows where the football is. He's finding it. He's turning it over. And he's showing up and he's where he needs to be. And that's kind of what you want from that star position. Most of the time is a guy that's always active, always around the football. And he seems to be that guy. So, obviously they had a couple of ballers last year, and Abrams Drain, Abrams Drain and
Rakestraw.
Rakestraw. I wasn't gonna remember that one, but yeah, and so I just
They have a
wonder how the
safety,
corner
too.
position is gonna play out this year because it seems maybe they're creating a little bit of a what do I want to call it? A little bit of a cornerback cornerback ish. Maybe they got that going. We'll see. So I'm gonna watch the corners because I want to see if I want to check that box for those guys, man. We'll see.
I take it you were talking about Dalen Carnell. I believe you were
Yeah.
referring to Dalen Carnell. Yeah, the star position. Keep an eye on Toriano Pride as well. He's a corner, formerly of Clemson. Yep. Who transferred over. So expect him to be in that starting lineup as they try to replace the aforementioned Abrams, Drain, and Rakestraw. Tall order on the defensive side of the ball. They lost a lot of talent at every level. Darius Robinson, the hopper, pair of corners, their safety, Jalen Charles, Carley's, I believe. You lose three starters in your secondary. That's a tough pill to swallow. So we'll keep an eye on that from Missouri's defense. You ready to move on to Louisville?
Got one more. Let me just Johnny Walker Jr.
Okay.
Number 15. And he seems to be a power guy, power edge, but he's gonna have to develop as a pass rusher. So that's one thing that I'm gonna be looking for from him to see if he develops again. Missouri has had some good pass rushers, some good defensive players come out of that system, so maybe he can kind of turn that over. Didn't get a whole lot of looks this past year, but you know what I'm saying, this may be the year where he kind of takes off, but we'll see what happens with him.
All right. Let's talk about this Louisville Cardinal team. Obviously, they had a really good season ago, but they've lost quite a bit of talent on either side of the ball, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. So, you lose the production of Jamari Thrash. That was your leading receiver. And then, of course, your top two ball carriers are in the NFL, Jawad Jordan and Isaac Guerendo. Guerendo of the really impressive 40-yard dash at 230 pounds. He's now in San Francisco. So they're kind of remaking this thing, it would seem, on offense. Plummer is gone, right? He's in some NFL camp at this point. You bring in grad transfer Tyler Show out of Texas Tech. Ja'Cory Brooks, really talented. We were talking about stars earlier, 5-star out of IMG Academy. Really started to come alive a couple seasons ago in Alabama. This past season, injuries, got pushed down the depth chart. Really, I think he had maybe 3 grabs in the entire season. He was a special teamer this past season. So really didn't get an opportunity. So he moves on. And then Colin Lacey, another transfer, right, out of South Alabama, big-time production, over 90 catches, I believe 1,300 yards receiving, close to, if not double-digit TDs. So looking forward to watching him. It seems like it's going to be a little bit different. They were a run-first type of offense, got the tight ends involved. Of course, Jamari Thrash did his damage, but, it was kind of an inside-out approach last season. It appears on the surface that this team is going to open things up here and attack vertically outside the numbers a bit more here with the transfers coming in. I also want to mention Donald Chaney. So Chaney was a favorite of mine. Of course, you see the Hurricane paraphernalia in the background. Big time recruit out of Miami. That struggled with injuries. He was maybe the third back. It was interesting because Miami would start with Henry Parrish, and then you might get some AJ Allen. And then the second half generally belonged to Donald Chaney. And I thought Donald Chaney was probably, next to Mark Fletcher, one of our most physical backs. You know what I'm saying? Really decisive runner. I think the injuries have taken a toll on some of his explosiveness, but I'm hoping that he gets back to what I saw when he first landed in Miami as a freshman. And some of that top end explosiveness returns, right? He struggled with injury, but I thought Miami was at their best when he was part of that battery in terms of the running game. So he'll have an opportunity. He wants the backfield to himself. With Jordan and Guerendo moving on to the NFL, he certainly will have his opportunity. But I'm expecting this offense to be very aggressive in terms of attacking downfield in the passing game vertically. What do you think about Ja'Cory Brooks in particular, Drew?
Yeah, man. Was it 2022? I think he got injured last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was part of it.
Yeah, he was extremely efficient at 39 receptions, 674 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
He's talented, bro.
I mean,
he got the goods, bro.
That's IMG, isn't it?
That's IMG, bro. That's that IMG. Yeah, that guy has the goods. He does.
I got here. He was the number 2 wide receiver behind only Ohio State star Emeka Egbuka. You know what I'm saying? So let me see here. 3 of the top 6 wide receivers in that class signed with Alabama, and he was a part of that. It's crazy, bro. So he has some easy speed, nice tracking ability. Excuse me. His ability to win right before the break of the route is something that I liked, and I want to see more of. Again, we're talking about very limited in terms of what he's done so far. Has a lot of yards and touchdowns that came when the play was extended. You know what I'm saying? With Bryce Young extending the play and being able to get all out to him. So there's a little bit of some funny numbers in there, if you will. This is just context. I ain't hating. This is just context. So I want to see what it looks like. Normally as going through your route and everything kind of playing out versus things extending, right?
Gotcha.
So want to see how that plays out for him. So and then I mean just looking forward to him to play the position as a whole, being healthy. But he's a big time talent with some speed, some route running ability. Just want to see things kind of play out for him, man. And he might be in the offense where that happens, because isn't this Brahms offense where they're gonna be chucking that boy all over the field?
Yep. Yeah, man. Listen, I'm excited about Ja'Cory Brooks. I actually wanted him down in Miami. I know Miami was trying to make a play for him. I'm excited about what he could do, being perhaps the focal point of the passing attack. You mentioned that quite a bit of the chunk yardage came when Bryce Young was able to break contain or step up, extend plays. I thought it was such a good feel, though, of understanding, okay, I need to reroute, make myself available to Bryce Young. I think that is an innate talent that, it can be coached, but guys who kind of have that innate feel, there's a certain level of specialness associated with that. You know what I mean? So that's something to keep an eye on with respect to that. But attacks the football, body control is there. He looks like a natural. He looks like a natural. You can see it with certain guys. You can see with certain guys at the receiving position. There isn't a whole lot of thinking through the number of steps and understanding when to time his jump to climb the ladder and attack the football at its highest point. The soft hands for the most part. He has.
I think we lost Juice one more time. But he's Ja'Cory Brooks should be that guy, and hopefully he will be. Just has to stay healthy, and he's going to get his opportunity big time here at Louisville. He's going to get the targets, man. They're coming. Go ahead, Juice.
Yeah, having a ton of technical difficulties, so I apologize. But yeah, that was kind of my final point on Ja'Cory Brooks. Let's talk about his teammate. I didn't get a chance to study him in great detail, but he's got a teammate coming in here at the receiver position. His name is escaping me, and I just
Colin Lacey.
Colin Lacey out of South Alabama. Big time production out of South Alabama. So as I mentioned, I'm expecting Louisville to be much more aggressive in the passing game. I'm looking forward to watching him on, a bit of a bigger stage here. South Alabama is, major college football, don't get me wrong, but a big stage here in the ACC. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get his opportunity to really demonstrate what he's capable of. They have the chance to form a really formidable 1-2 combination. Anybody else on this offense you want to touch on?
Let's see. We could touch on Shu, but let me hit Colin Lacey real quick. 5'10", 190, 91 receptions. I was not expecting to see that at all. I was like, whoa, with 1,300 yards. I think it was 6 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the touchdowns. I didn't put it in here. But he understands angle spacing leverage when running his routes. Not easy guy to take down after the catch. Either let's see what I got here. Not an easy guy to take down after the catch. And I have here, he is comfortable making adjustments to the ball in the air with defenders around him. Plays all 3 wide receiver position. Like I said, tracks the ball well. No wasted movement. once the ball's in his hands. Like he's not going east and west. It's north or south, whatever direction he's traveling. He might make a slight step here or there just to kind of free things up and move guys around. But outside of that, he's always going forward. So it's a guy coming off of 91 balls, 91 catches, 1,300 yards. You know, I don't know if he does any better than that. He might be a little bit more efficient come this year with less, just because of, or maybe he hits a repeat, or maybe he has more touchdowns, whatever. But he's gonna get the targets. They coming.
They coming. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this. This has they have a chance to be a pretty explosive offense here.
They're gonna be scared. They're gonna be a problem for teams in the ACC. It ain't. You're not gonna be able to sleepwalk through this team because they've kind of retooled, reassembled. Thank the transfer portal to kind of just say, okay, well, let's bring some guys in here. Let's get it done, man. And Tyler Shoe, 6'5", 230, bro. Every bit of that size, and he got speed to boot, man. He was going against Oregon this year, and I think it was Oregon's second or third game of the year.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
almost beat him.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
They needed Dorless. They needed Dorless to come through. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? He's got here. We'll throw it to his guy, give his guy a chance. So you talk about the two receivers that we talked about amongst some other guys that probably got on the roster. He'll throw it up, give his guy a chance, keeps his eyes down the field, looking to throw the ball before he runs it. Has some vision and patience when running the football, though, in terms of them boys not running that QB power, bro, over there at Texas Tech, bro. You know what I'm saying? He had some patience. He was waiting for the blocks to set up, waiting for the pull come down, and then he would just slide up into something. Pause. We'll sometimes go for just saying. We'll sometimes go for the big play versus taking what the defense gives them. I think that might get tempered here with this offense. Has some improving to do in terms of in that Oregon game. They kind of lit him up with the late blitzes specifically from the outside. I don't know how I know I've never played quarterback, so I can't sit here and tell you I don't know how he didn't see him. But I don't know if Oregon disguised them well or what. But at some point, you got to see him because you're going to get hurt, right? Like, you got to see him. You got to be able to get your head up and see what's going on. But that just speaks to his wanting to look down the field and get the ball out to his guys. But and I think he has the arm to kind of throw it all around the yard. So this is going to be a fun – if you're a Louisville fan, you're going to have a lot of fun this year in terms of the offense and see what that looks like.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have the potential to be very scary in the ACC. Of course, they made a run to the ACC championship last year. Again, they got to account for some departures, the transfer portal, and all that, but they've used it to their advantage as well. So looking forward to watching this Louisville offense. On the defensive side of the ball, Ashton Gilletti, man. Drew, I remember when we did our mock draft reaction to Jordan Reed's way too early 2025 mock draft. We got to the Gilletti pick late in the first round. And you were like, I'm not familiar with this game. Now that you have familiarized yourself, what do you think?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I like him a lot, man. He surprised me. Wasn't sure what I was going to see. I say that a lot, I think, when guys, I don't know what I'm going to see, and it surprised me. Maybe I need to say it the other way around when the guy don't surprise. I didn't know what I was going to see, and it was terrible. I don't think I've ever said that. But first thing I noticed, high motor and ability to close on the ball carrier, man.
White hot motor, bro. White hot motor.
High octane, bro. We ain't doing
gas.
89, bro. We need that 93, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be in there. I don't know if diesel's higher than the 93. If it ain't 90, if diesel's higher, we going diesel, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because he's got that engine in him. Technically sound at the point of attack. He gets his hands on the inside of the offensive alignment almost consistently. Like it's over and over. Like he's got that down. Like it's a science, man. He's able to control them in the run game, engage and disengage at will. Has a bevy of moves to keep the offensive lineman off balance. He's on it in terms of that, man. Got them boys on their heel. They don't know what's coming. And then you mix in the pace and variation in terms of the speeds that you're giving the offensive linemen. They have no idea what's coming, man. Super productive, 11 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 45 tackles last year. I got him. I'm putting him in here. I don't know where. I don't know how I'm gonna get him in here, but I'm gonna say he's a top 5 edge right now. Quick hands. Like I said, first at the point of attack. I got here because of his quickness and burst. He's very good at games up front in terms of kind of looping around and then like I talked about earlier in terms of that close, man.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. I'm with you there. I thought his best reps actually came when he reduced down, right? So he's listed as an edge, but I thought his best reps went when he was able to play 3-tech, 4-eye, and beat up guards. Just
the first couple reps I saw, I was like,
bruh, manhandle guards, right? He has kind of a natural leverage that he plays with, and as you mentioned, his hand placement is so good. You get to see the power and the violence regularly. What I'd like to see more of, but he has it. I've seen it. I just would like to see more of is the tertiary and secondary and tertiary moves. But there's a really nice bull rush followed by he chains a rip move. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a whole lot of wasted movement. We talked about the high motor and it's guys that are just flying around. You know what I'm saying? Tasmanian devil type of deal. No, there's a plan. There's a plan. He's generally under control. Certainly when he's setting the edge, his head is on a swivel, so he does a good job of dealing with misdirection and maintaining gap integrity. There's a lot to like about him. There is a lot to like about him. I think he helps execute that TE stunt to whether he's playing the tackle position or the edge position. He does a great job of executing the TE stunt. I came away thoroughly impressed. The little that I saw of him last year was basically just watching games, right? Not necessarily studying the film. And you would see him flash among some other guys. There's some other guys along that defensive line that flashed a bit, but watching him and first of all, having to make sure that, okay, I've identified him because he's moving throughout the defensive line. It's easy to see why he's considered by some, as a top 32, overall prospect. You understand what I'm saying? Again, plays with excellent leverage and power. Turns that speed to power into an effective bull rush. He can chain it with that rip move. And of course, I thought when he moved inside, I really thought that was when he was at his best. Well, the first game I watched of his was against Notre Dame. I wanted to see him against Blake Fisher and Joe Alt. And I thought Blake Fisher actually handled him pretty well. Joe Alt did for the most part. He may have got Joe a couple more times. But I thought Joe Alt, but when he reduced down, bro, different player. Different player. And it almost seemed as if he made some plays from the inside. So then when he went and faced Joe Alt again, he was playing with confidence and was giving Joe Alt and Blake Fisher more trouble when he moved back to the outside. So a very intriguing prospect. The question is, and it's not necessarily a problem, but you wonder, you know what I mean? Body type, size, can he hold up effectively as an interior guy? Or and I think this would be perfectly fine in an even man front. He plays edge first couple of downs. Obvious passing downs, I'm moving him inside, bro. I'm moving him inside. He has a nice blend of quickness, pad level, and power, right? That allows him to consistently beat interior offensive linemen. He gives tackles trouble too. I don't want to take that away from him. He can win off the edge too. But I think when he can line up in a 3 technique, 4-eye type of alignment, I think he's at his absolute best under those circumstances. So a lot of fun to watch. He was a really fun watch on tape for sure. See, I got a couple more names to touch on, man.
I got a Tamarian McDonald. I think this is a transfer from Tennessee. Played nickel line. He kind of played a nickel linebacker role. I'm gonna say I want to call it the star role because it was a little strange how they were kind of utilized. I guess you can call it that. I guess racked up over 100 tackles in the past for his career total. He's kind of ascending in terms of doing that. Most of that came in the last 2 years. 6'2", 208. He's too small to play linebacker. But I don't know if he's fast or quick enough to play the nickel position. So I'm kind of interested to see what Louisville will do with him and how they'll use him. So that's kind of where I sit with him. My guy, was it? See where it's supposed to be. Yeah, I'm just not sure where he'll be. But the biggest thing that I picked up watching him though is that like he understands where he's supposed to be and where others are supposed to be, and like he's calling stuff out and he's moving and adjusting and trying to outflank him and things. And it's just he's not letting it happen.
Yeah,
right?
he's the quarterback back there.
Yep. Intelligence. So, I just wonder how Louisville will use him, and hopefully they don't put him in a compromising position. Because again, I don't know his Sparky. I don't know his numbers, right? So, but assuming they're good, it's a guy to key on for the rest of the season. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he's a guy who shoots up draft boards.
I think this is the right guy, but Desmond Tell, the nose tackle. They got a Thor Griffith transferring, a grad transfer coming in. So perhaps he gets some more run. But I think Desmond Tell was a guy that stood out last year as a nose tackle, made some plays, beat up the center and guard. Was stout against the run, but even flashed the ability to get upfield a bit as well. I also liked Mason Rager. He kind of was part of the rotation along the edge group. At times, they kind of put him in no man's land, had him, covering guys, covering backs and tight ends, and they got him on a real route. And I was like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do with him. But I thought he also played with a very high motor, was an effective pass rusher in spot opportunities. So is another player that I think we should keep our eye on as you're watching Ashton Gillette, right? Of course, you're keying in on him, and there's some other guys that are flashing and making plays as well. So interesting group. I thought this team overall, this on either side of the ball, was a well-coached team, bro. It was a really well-coached team, physical and well-coached. You know what I'm saying? They rarely beat themselves. They generally were in position to make plays and made said play when they were in position to do so. They had a couple letdowns along the way, right? And maybe not a couple. One letdown, that the game against Pitt, they had beat Notre Dame. That was a big win. They were on the road, and then I think they just came out flat. And then Kentucky, Ray Davis got them. Right. It was too much. It was too much Ray Davis. It was too much Ray Davis. But otherwise, really, really impressive season. So we'll see if they can build on it because things are changing, right? Again, you lose your top two ball carriers. You're starting quarterback. You might actually get, a boost here at the quarterback position with Shu coming in. I expect them to be more dynamic on the outside. As much as I like Jamari Thrash, I think the combination of transfers they have in coming in could be that much more effective. I mentioned last year inside out in terms of the passing game. I think it's going to be more on the perimeter this year. And then another year of Ashton Gillette, man. See how far he can climb. See how far he can push his star up the draft board. It'll be something to keep your eye on because I'm telling you, man, it's the first thing that came to mind when I was watching him was like, his best reps are interior. When he's at 4-eye 3 technique, they couldn't handle him. He was too much. And we talked about his pass rushing, but equally as effective against the run. Stout against the run. You know what I'm saying? No plays off, bro. No plays off. You know what I'm saying? So really impressive player there. Yeah, DK. We actually started with Arizona. Arizona was the first team we discussed, then we moved on to Missouri, and then just wrapped up the Louisville Cardinals. And I think that's what's going to do it. That's going to do it for this edition of the Second Half Draft Show. And again, thank everybody for tuning in during the dog days of summer scouting. We'll keep it going next week. Drew, you gonna be available next week? Are you off next week? You off next week? What's going on?
I don't know. We're gonna. I gotta see the situation.
Yeah, to see the situation.
I'll let you know for sure about we're leaving. Be there Thursday, so I'll let you know Thursday night.
All right. Sure. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. At any rate, somebody will be back next week, same time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern for the Second Half Draft Show. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. For Drew, this is Juice. We will see you next week.